Here's to 6 years podcasting. You know what? I am happy that we are here today. And I'm, first of all, thankful to God Almighty and Abba Father for helping me and a lot of people who have come and gone throughout this whole experience to really say thank you for listening to this show, listening to the podcast. It wouldn't be the same without you because you've been listening to this for a long time and we're in 6 years today. In fact, there was no way I was going to end the day without coming to you because you've been here for a long time and there's no way I can forget about you because listening to this episode means that you've been here for a while. Some of you have not been here for a while. Some of you have been here for a day. But today, I appreciate you and for listening to this episode. Thank you for hitting the play button because what I've been doing for 6 years is not a child's play. Thank you, Brian. I see you. Appreciate you. It's good to see you here as well. Hope you're well. Masayo, Cartoon, Rena, Acme, and David, thank you for being here too. A lot of people will be coming in. If you have any questions about podcasting, about how to start one, what it is, what to do, please reach out to me and we can have a conversation. Or you can just go to wedontplaypodcast.com and listen to the podcast episodes that we have. We have over 550 episodes. Now, I wanted to hit 600 before we hit 6 years, and I mentioned it to the community, and I love to be transparent. Guess what? We have 550 published episodes, but we have at least 200 unreleased episodes. So we've actually gone above the number of episodes that we have in terms of the number of years we've been active. It's just that they're not published. So we kind of did a plot twist, or reverse Uno, or we did something a little different. But at the same time, it's like, okay, now that we have enough shows for you to listen to, there's going to be a lot of episodes that you can binge on. We've talked about relationships, we've talked about marriage, we've talked about finance, we've talked about health, we've talked about wealth, we've talked about faith, we've talked about fun, we've talked about travel, we've talked about food. Like there are so many episodes. I'm probably missing a couple of them, a lot of them, because you can't keep up. I don't even remember the 100th episode, right? I would have to go back and check what the 100th episode was, but we keep going. And every episode that we've done has been a milestone. So right now we're crossing over 550 episodes. We're on our way to 600 published. And knowing that podcasting is not easy, it's one of the best things you can do for your business, especially if you're starting up from scratch. If you do email marketing as a beginner, or let me just say email marketing for beginners, or email marketing for experts, or email marketing for leaders, email marketing for conversions, for anything that you do as a business, there's going to be a time and a season that's going to come that you need to sit back and listen. Because the word listen and the word silent are the same words, but they're just scrabbled differently. So, if you really think about what you are doing with your time and you think about podcasting, for me, podcasting has been the most lowest effort and the most highest impact I've ever seen in the history of marketing. Because this is one tool that I don't have to lift a finger. I just have to open my mouth, speak on things that I know that are true and I know that will help you. And then I take this audio and I turn it into something that you're going to read on LinkedIn. It's something you're going to read in an email. It's something you're going to read on the website. It's something you're going to read online. And all I had to do was talk. That's low effort. Because we say, oh yeah, we speak on things. Yeah, where are we speaking through? And that's what I've learned. What has Favour learned? I'll give you 6 things I've learned in 6 years. Because it's not easy to start something. And for me, I would say the first lesson I have learned, podcasting wise, in 6 years is that you have to take, it's going to be a hard one to start with. You have to take no and be okay with the no you get. If it's a no, there's a reason why, and you may not know why until it turns into a yes. So all you got to do is either wait or you got to do something, right? Because even when you talk to God about things, he'll tell you yes, no, or wait. So sometimes it may not be the right time. And in my mind, I said, okay, I have to think about these things. But when I think about the lessons, I've also learned that when somebody says no, it's a reason for you to think outside the box and wonder what you could do differently that will make it a yes. Because it's not always going to be a yes, right? When living in a world that is, there's a balance, right? There's day and night, there's a lot of balancing that we have to do. That's why there's male and female. So when you're looking at your things, when you're hearing yes or no, it's the same thing. It's either zeros or ones, right? 0 binary code is nothing, 1 is something. So when you're now looking at 1 plus 1, you're now adding the concepts together and asking yourself, how can I turn this 0 into a 1? How can I turn this thought into an idea that can actually generate income? So that's where, for me, I've learned that if I didn't hear the word no, it would have been hard for me to start. Because sometimes when you hear these things from people, you hear them, oh yeah, do you want to start a podcast? Oh yeah, you can do it. And then your voice is telling you no. I'm not saying somebody told me no. Your inner voice is telling you no. Because most times we're our biggest critics, right? And we get it. We do things. We're like, I don't know about this. I don't know if I should do this. Maybe not today. Maybe not ever. But the day you actually want to do it, you're like, why not? What's the worst that could happen if I start a podcast? So I started a podcast. For those who are listening for the first time, I started my podcast August 12th, like today, back in 2019. And when I started my first episode, August 12th, 2019, and today is August 12th, 2025, I look back and I'm like, wow, thank God I bet on myself, and I'm glad that, God backs me up when I back myself up too, because you have to be confident in the decisions that you make. For those who don't know, my name is Favour Obasi-Ike, and I also have an artist name, a pseudonym called Flav Beats. And Flav Beats, if you don't know, I'm a drummer, I'm a writer, I'm a songwriter, I'm a producer. I am a music composer, and I've done screenwriting for film, for ads, for TV, for radio, for print. So I've been in media and communications for a while, for decades. So when I decided to choose a lane in media and say, what lane am I going to choose that's going to take me to the fastest process possible with the lowest effort, but still has the highest impact because it has the highest return? And I thought about it. I said, okay, I can do text, I can do audio, I can do video. Let me do audio because I've always been in music. So I also play music. And also, honestly, if you listen to what you're hearing right now, and you also listen back to some episodes, you also see that the music that you listen to is something that I compose, I create, I produce, and I take about 30 minutes to create every season's music you hear. And I don't really talk about that much, but because it's a special episode, I want you to also know that. But yeah, I take about 30 minutes to create a new song or create a new jingle, So if I'm spending time with you, it's 30 minutes because I've spent almost quarter of a century in music and entertainment. That's why I can spend 30 minutes to create one song or one jingle, because I've put in a lot of work to understand the dynamics and the sonical factors that play into how you can get psychologically connected with the tune of the melody, what you want to have as a cadence for your music. Whether it's sad, happy, long, short, it doesn't matter. It just depends on how you're able to do it. So for me, I decided to think about audio and say, okay, I'll do music. So I play the drums, self-taught. I play the drums at my church, and I've always played drums anywhere I go to. And whether it's school or work or church or anything, I'm able to connect with people. So when I started doing the drums, I said, okay, yeah, this is cool. Moved over to music, making music. If you go to how do I say this? If you go to Apple Music or Spotify or anywhere you listen to your music and type in FLAEV space BEATZ. You can also do that on Instagram or any other place, TikTok, Facebook. You'll find me there too, Flav Beats. When you listen to the music, you also see that my music goes all the way back to 2005. So if you really think about the amount of audio time I've spent, this is 2025. So we're talking 20 years, 2 decades, consistently showing up on digital audio streams within a World Wide Web network. So today, marking 6 years, podcasting, I'm like, okay, God, where am I going to be in 7 years, in 8 years, in 9 years, in 10 years? You have to write it down. Today, I was having a recording of an episode with an amazing person. Thank you so much, Rena. Thank you for the congratulations. I appreciate you. When I featured a podcast guest today on the show, and she's also a client too, which is very exciting because she has her own show. She's a DJ. She's doing amazing things. So you listen to her when she comes on here. And we connected and we had a podcast. I said, hey, come on the show. Let's talk. Let's talk about this, And then it was a really fluid, seamless, beautiful conversation, like something that if someone listens to, it's like you're listening to 2 OGs talking about back in the day, music from the days of the old when things used to start from scratch. Like you had to literally do film. Because I remember when I used to print film, actually take photos, I had to take negative photos, put them in the dark room, hang them up on a clothesline, and then let them dry up and come back a few days later, or maybe the day after, to now see what has happened based on the film development. So when I think about all this cool stuff that we used to do back in the day with music, yeah, I remember those days too. Rena remembers those days. Yes, it's good. I remember my dad even took me to the studio the first time, because my dad is a musician too. He has over 7 albums making music, gospel music. And I was like, yeah, I want to do music too. That was back in 2005. Hey, Steve, welcome. And I was like, yeah, I want to do music. I want to, do a few things here and there. And the music was really popping. And I was like, oh, this is cool, with tapes and with floppy disks and with vinyls and all these things. I'm like, okay, this is cool. And I said, you know what, let me try it out for myself. So I started making music from my piano all the way through to, from the drums to the piano to the discs to the, to the USBs to the studios. And then there was one time, I can't forget this day. This was 2007. Yeah, 2007. I remember. 2007. Yeah, we're going back today. 2007. I remember when in the summer, I just finished making music. I just had an album in 2005, and then I was like, I'll do another in 2007. So I used 2005, 2006 to look around and do market research and figure out what's really happening here. What am I really getting myself into? And this was also the days when YouTube was early, early days, right? So I looked at it, right? Blast from the past conversation, modern technology. Yeah, it's crazy. It's long term. And I'm thinking about it now. It's also so nostalgic talking about it because I don't always talk about this. So that's why this is let me just chill and, give you all the sauce real quick, just a little bit, because it'll be nice to come back to you years from now. And I was doing all these things, trying to create music to make sure that, okay, can people hear me? Can people feel me? Can people understand me? And that was putting melody and cadence and beats and bars and music and in flow. and that allowed me to know that I can also do things outside audio. And I said, okay, I'll do video too. I'm going to do all these amazing things and see how that goes. So I thought, and I said, okay, you know what? This is going to be a very exciting time for me to start building into attraction and also understanding what I really need to do. So I said, okay, '07, let me, create all this music and all this good stuff. Then guess what? I take my summer, all my friends are having fun, going out and everything. And I was like, I'm going to go make music. So I went to make music. Till today, I don't have that music. I don't have that at all because I finished making music. And the day after I finished, there was an armed robbery at the studio. And then I came the day after. And I was like, I'm going back to the studio and everything. I didn't know what was going on. They wiped out the whole studio, took everything. I don't even know how this happened. Till today, I'm like, it's still a mystery. And I was like, what's going on? I've spent my whole summer making music, and this music was tight. I remember, I can't remember everything, but I remember I had a tight schedule because I really intentionally wanted to do it for real. So I did it, and then that happened. The day I looked at that studio when I got in and I saw what happened, I was like, whoa. I was like, am I supposed to really do music? Is this what this music means? And I said, I'm not doing music again. I stopped for 2 years or so. And I was just thinking, I was reflecting. I was like, what's really going on here? Then in '09, I got back in, I did music again. And I was like, now I started doing it for real. From then I said, yeah, let's keep going. And up until now, 2025, I've now turned it into so many different things. So now when you see me podcasting and hearing me talk about music and audio and jingles and melodies, it's because these things have been happening before. So what you're experiencing now, what you're enjoying now is hours and eons of consistency. And that takes time. And that takes willingness, diligence, even if nobody's in the room listening. Because I remember when nobody was listening, I'll be like, is this mic on? I'll be like, what's going on here? Is this really happening? Somebody, you start thinking about all these moments. You're like, okay, okay. You start thinking about all these things at the same time. You're wondering, is this really what I want to do? Is this really what I'm meant to do? Is this what I'm purposefully doing? And I thought through everything, and one day I got to hear about this, and I think I've talked about this before, when I got to hear and I was told that I'm just going to make things happen in a way that will have a global impact. I won't say too much. And I said, amen. I was like, yeah, this is going to be something that will happen. And today, as I'm speaking to you, we are streaming this podcast in over 151 countries. That's a lot of countries. 151 countries listening to this podcast. It's not been easy, but it's also been very exciting and very thrilling, because these next 5 years, we've hit a decade last year, and now we're in the 6th year. And in my head, I was wondering, okay, I want to do 6 years podcasting. I want to do 6 hours, but guess what? Last year I did 5 hours. I know you remember when I did 5 hours. So you're going to think, okay, is he going to do 6 hours? Because I did talk about it last time. But guess what? I couldn't do 6 hours today because I couldn't even get 6 minutes to chill, because I'm busy, I'm productive, I'm working, I have clients, I have a team, I have a business, and I'm running accounts. I'm running analytics, I'm running data, I'm running reports. It's not a child's play. So it's like, how can I be doing 6 hours when I have clients that need my time and my questions, and they have something that needs to be done within a certain timely manner? So we don't play. That's the name of the podcast. So when you hear these things, you also see that it's growth. So what I decided to do, I said, you know what? I want to give y'all 6 hours, and I want to make sure that these 6 hours are worth your 6 hours, but I was going to divide them into 2 parts. So here we go, because it's something I actually planned intentionally for you tonight. This is something that I want you to know. Today and tomorrow is going to be a 2-part. So tomorrow I'm going to come back with more. But today I wanted to just give you like the layup or the alley-oop. Because when I started my podcast, I did a trailer, and that was on August 12th. And then August 13th is when I actually did my first episode. So I took 24 hours to do the trailer. That's why I'm giving you guys 24 hours before I come back. I may come back before 24 hours, but I'm going to make sure that I'll be here to give you a full 2-hour episode. I may do one, because I may do one tonight and do one tomorrow, but let's see. You never know. I might give you 3 as a bonus, because I would want to definitely give you something that you can actually enjoy. And welcome to Mara and Peace. Thank you for being here. Out there as well, thank you for being here. And please click the link at the very top that says Marketing Club, and feel free to join us here too. So I decided to just put things into perspective, and I said, okay, this is where I want to go. This is what I want to do. And this is how I want to start. And then I said, I'm going to start it the right way by creating a scenario where I can actually be comfortable and learn from what I'm building. So I now created the podcast because I said, okay, I'm going to do this in 2 different ways. And I said, okay, how am I going to come back to you and give you something that's valuable? And this is it. Because we're celebrating 6 years podcasting, what I decided to do is to split it up into 2. So there's going to be 2 hours and 4 hours. What are the 2 hours? Well, the 2 hours are going to be focused on just giving you value, giving you information like I always do, giving you resources, giving you insight, giving you tactics, giving you strategies, and giving you attention, right? When you have this, you're able to enjoy these hours and binge and listen and get all the nuggets, because I'm going to give you what I've learned. I've given you 1 lesson I've learned. I'm going to have 5 more to give you tonight. Welcome to Mara again, and Fabian. Thank you for being here. When I look at the 4 hours, the 4 hours is going to be in form of a workshop, which I'm so happy that I'm going to be doing. And I'm actually going to extend it past 4 hours, because if I'm going to be doing 90 minutes each, that's 90 times 4, right? So if I'm looking at a full cycle, then I know that, okay, this actually makes a lot of sense, because I'm looking at it from the perspective of, if I'm going to create 90 minutes times 4, that's going to give me 360 minutes, right? And if I'm thinking about 360 minutes divided by 6 years, that's about 60 minutes, right? So I'm looking at it from a mathematical perspective, and I'm also looking at it from a tactical, helpful, and productive perspective. So these 2 hours are going to be free. They're going to be on Clubhouse. I'll do another hour tomorrow. And then the 4 hours, I'll talk about this tomorrow in depth, but I'll just give you a little scoop so you can dive in just a little bit, get your feet wet a little bit. The 4 hours that I'm going to be presenting to you are going to be 4 workshops, right? 4 workshops. Each of them are going to be 90 minutes, right? That's why I said 90 times 4. So for 4 days, I'm going to be dedicating, just to celebrate this podcast show, I'm going to be having 4 days of 90 minutes each within a workshop setting that you're going to learn about 4 different things. And what are these 4 different things? I want to tell you right now, so that you also prepare. If this is you, if you're thinking about it, this is something that you have to plan, or if you have to think through or ask yourself, am I ready for this? Is this something I need to do right now? This is the time to think about it. So here are the 4 things I'm going to be talking about. I'll tell you the price and everything tomorrow, but this is information for you tonight. There are going to be 4 workshops. The first workshop is going to be an SEO plus AI workshop. what I'm going to be showing you in this section of the AI workshop and the SEO workshop is in this first day. That's why I'm using that as a first day, because nothing is going to pass this day without passing through this test. Because you're not going to be on the other 3 platforms I'm going to mention if your podcast or if your website or if your book or anything that you have as an intellectual property is not positioned correctly. And that would be a disservice to you if I don't tell you this first. So the first workshop we're going to handle and really go deep into it, because it's going to be exclusive, it's going to be virtual, it's going to be group, and it's going to be exclusive within a time frame. And we'll be talking about your website and how SEO and AI work together. How do you show up on ChatGPT? How do you show up on Perplexity? How do you show up on Google? How do you show up on YouTube? How do you show up on these platforms that everybody's talking about, and do it in the way that you actually should be doing it correctly, enough to make that impact within a periodic cycle that gives you a better layout on a larger stretch? Let me give you an example. So if you have one podcast a week, and each of these podcast episodes are 5 minutes each, right? So that's 20 minutes out of a month. That's a lot of time you have left saved, right? You only spend 20 minutes out of a full month, and in 5 minutes each, you have recorded an episode that is now on a digital audio web server, which is on the internet, on Apple, on Spotify, on iHeart, on all these platforms. And as you're on all these platforms, you are distributing your network, and you're actually gaining more audience and response because people are finding you resourceful, and they're also finding you helpful because your content is actually making sense to them. So now when you do that consistently, what you're going to start realizing is that you're going to start building momentum. And this momentum is going to start coming from the fact that you have a podcast episode that can grow. And that's how you're able to now connect to more people, because they can find you through links. So this SEO workshop, we're going to show you how to do it together. First of all, see what I'm doing so you can do it too. I'll give you the link so you can access it through. And then your business can start to see the light of day in terms of being on Google search, being on Bing search, being on platforms that you haven't connected to. And if you have connected them, we're going to find out if they're connected correctly, or if they're even put in a position to be found on the web. And there's a way to find out if it's actually there, because if we do this, and I talked about this, I think in the last episode, that if you do site, SITE, your domain.com, and then you just put in a keyword, you're going to either get a result or you're going to get no result. It's either or. So it's not going to be a surprise. If you don't have anything, you won't see anything. If you have something, you're going to see something. It's that simple. So that's how you can tell. And then if it's not there, we have to make sure it's there, because you can't have a website that you're paying every year for a domain fee or a hosting fee, and you're not getting any money back because you don't know how to use what you have. Yet you have everything possible to make money back from, because you have a digital online property that can be seen through the web across the world. That's why this podcast is listened to in 151 countries, because people go on Google search, people go to ChatGPT, people go to Alexa, they go to Siri, they look for episodes, and they show up with results, and your result shows up as part of the mentions because you have a LinkedIn post, because you have different things. And speaking of LinkedIn, also today was another win, because we just crossed, in fact, let me just say it this way. My LinkedIn profile crossed 15,000 connections today. So today has been a blessing. It's been a big win. It's been amazing. A lot of things have been going on. Welcome, Misha. Thanks for being here. There's so much that's happening and so many things I'm learning. And I'm like, you know what? This is something that you have to think about and grow from. So I'm excited that I'm talking about this with you, and I'll show you how it works with AI and with SEO. The second part is going to be LinkedIn. The LinkedIn is going to be another workshop. I'm going to show you how to use LinkedIn properly. And what I mean properly is, if you have a podcast, even better. If you have a business, even better. If you have anything online that is going to show your professionalism and show your your intentionality online, definitely we can make that happen for you with Pinterest and also with your podcast and also with LinkedIn, depending on what you want to use it for. Welcome, Patricia. So you're going to see LinkedIn as one of the workshops, and how you want to find out for this information, because I know you're listening and you're like, okay, I may want to actually check this out and see if that's something I'm interested in. So if you're interested in this, I want to give you the opportunity to sign up today. If you're here, if you're listening, if you're tuned in, go to the description or just click the link above and you'll see the link. And when you click this link above in the description too, you will be able to click on it. And when you do, it will take you to a page that will give you access to more information about what we're going to be bringing. And then put in your first name, put in your best email, and then hit the call to action. And when you hit the call to action button that says book our 30-minute call, you will be redirected to a calendar where we can now have a one-on-one conversation about your business, because the future of business is private. And the person that said that is the amazing Mark Zuckerberg. You know, we all know Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook, from Meta. I remember him talking about that one day in an interview, and that thing stuck with me forever. Yeah, the future of business is private. So I don't want you to think about worrying about what's going to happen because of AI and SEO. You can definitely get there, and I want to show you how, because I've done it myself, and I wouldn't come and tell you something I've not done first. That would be a disservice to myself, and that would be embarrassing too. So I want to show you how you can do it correctly and how you can actually get it out there. So if you're interested, please click this and then check the box that says workshops so that you can also get emails about workshops too. And I'll be very specific to sending that out to you. In fact, tonight before I sleep, I'm going to be sending out an email because I want people to know about what's going on and what's happening. So yeah, the first lesson I learned is about no. Like, just don't take no as an offense. Take it as a reflex. Take it as a reflection as to know, okay, what do you want to do? And if you tell yourself no, pick up yourself and say, yeah, I'm going to do it again. And why am I giving you this example? It's because when I started my podcast, I first started my podcast. By the way, this is a little fun fact that you probably have never heard before. When I first started my podcast didn't start off as We Don't Play. Huh? Yeah, it didn't start off as We Don't Play. The We Don't Play was already athleisure wear, because I already have a fashion line, athleisure wear. So that's where it came from. And then that's the mantra of the business. The business is Work and Play Entertainment. And our mantra is We Don't Play as a company. And that's why we've put that into merchandise and we've put that into podcasting. So we've literally humanized our mantra in form of a podcast, in form of merchandise. That's literally what happened, if you've never heard the story. So the podcast initially was not called We Don't Play. I started off the podcast initially as Play Flav, because Flav Beats is my name. And I was like, Play Flav, okay, that sounds okay, but who's going to keep playing Flav? Not now. You can play Flav, but not on a podcast like that. I need to have something that's more inviting. I don't want it to be centered on me. I want to focus on people, and I want to connect with people, because the reason why I even started a podcast is so that I can impact the world. And I wanted to have a world impact with my voice. And I figured I wanted to do it through internet radio. That was back in school days. And I also thought, you know what? One day my grandkids, God willing, they're going to listen to this and they'll be able to hear my voice. Imagine if you could hear your great grandfather, grandmother's voice just in form of an audio. Just imagine how cool that would be. That's very sentimental. So you just think about where we're going in the future and how we can actually create the future we want to see by doing things intentionally. So what did I do? I decided I'm going to create a podcast and just talk about things. So Play Flav was the name, and I was doing it for music, entertainment. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to give you guys new music and keep you updated with what's going on, like a radio. And at some point I was like, Favour, you need to do something a little different to make people more excited about the show and not just about the music or what's happening around the week. So I said, okay, I'm going to switch this up. And then how I even attach this to the first lesson I've learned is because I kept on doing music, and what I ended up and please, I'm telling you this lesson so that if you ever try this, don't do this at home. Don't even start it, because you're learning from me, and I don't want you to go to the beginning from where I learned from, and no, just don't do this. So I started recording. This was a rookie mistake. In the first time I did this, welcome up, I started recording music, as I was mentioning, reviews and everything. And then I started recording the actual music of the artists and putting them and slicing them into the show. So I would literally be putting out podcast episodes with music that is copywritten, right? And you're putting that on the show, even though you're being innocent, but it's a flag. Just like on YouTube, if you don't say this, I don't own rights to this song, or you don't own the song, you're going to be, you can't monetize. Even now with the whole new YouTube AI thing going on, you can't monetize with AI content on YouTube, because they are smart. They know that they gave you a product called Google VO, which is a Google product from Alphabet, which is a parent company, and you can't monetize off a product that they gave you as a service. It's weird. So they definitely did a reverse Uno for sure, because they're not going to make you make money off AI that they made from the platform that you're creating on. It's crazy. So when I looked at it, I was like, okay. With the podcast, I started putting out the music, and then I ended up realizing that my RSS feed was compromised. In other words, my RSS feed was not active. And at that time, it was anchor.fm. So when I started anchor.fm, this is now Spotify for creators, or creators.spotify.com. So I was like, I can't even access my podcast anymore. This is a little weird. What's going on here? Welcome, Gigi. And I said, you know what? Probably this is what has happened. Because I put music, and then I put this music on a podcast, now the podcast can't even play. So my play fave was literally like stop flav. That's really what it felt like, because I just didn't understand what was going on. But I realized that, with my entertainment business hat on, I was like, that makes sense, because I came into podcast like music, if that makes sense. And that was a genuine move, because I'm coming in with a musical background to a podcast that's having the same audio, but I didn't know there were restrictions or limitations or things that you couldn't do. You can't just be putting somebody's full song or half song or any song that you don't own on a platform that's a podcast that you're distributing content through. So if you're listening to this, don't do this. If you're doing music, do it in a way that's going to be very exclusive, and don't just copy and paste music and repurpose it, because that's redistribution, and that's not good, especially with entertainment law. So, and I've done that. So that's why it made sense when I put two and two together. I was like, okay, podcasting is different. So yeah, that's the number one. Don't put music that you don't own and use it as podcast content. That's not going to be helpful at all. So that's one lesson. Lesson number 2, what has Favour learned? Welcome, Lavette. What has Favour learned from podcasting in 6 years? The second thing I've learned is take your time. Take your time. Take time for yourself, and take time for your listener, because your listener is also going to take time listening to you. So the amount of time you take and the amount of quality you make out of the time you have is the amount of time that they're going to give you back if you care about the time they invest in you. That's a very crucial thing. One of my love languages is quality time. That's why I spend quality time on my podcast, because there's different types of love too. There's filial love, there's agape love, there's so many types of love, right? So when I show love and I appreciate people in the way I love them, it's also through the quality time that I give. So this is not just, I got time to waste. I ain't got time to waste. I'm here to make sure I can deliver and make sure I do what I think about, because I'm looking at the time. I started my podcast August 12, 2019. It's August 12, 2025. So I know exactly what this means by August 12th, 2030. By God's grace, I know what I'll be saying because of what I'm saying now. So I'm looking at time as, we look at time and we just look at time. But time is something we don't have. It's something we're given, right? So there's a difference. So I'm looking at this from a long-term perspective. So give yourself time. Give yourself time to start your podcast. If no one's listening to you, that's okay. Don't feel bad. Don't feel discouraged, because it can be very easy to stop. In fact, there's some statistics that you can actually Google and check out for yourself, or even ask ChatGPT or any AI search engine and ask, how long does it take before someone stops podcasting consistently? And you'll hear that most times it's usually between 6 to 8 weeks, at most 8 weeks. That's 2 months. If you are consistent on a weekly basis, that's 8 out of 52 weeks that you have done. So if somebody was to grade you from January to December and you had an 8 out of 52, that's what's that grade? Let's do the math, because we're talking math today. We're talking about 6 years. So 8 divided by 52 is technically 15%. So 15% of your year was spent on podcasting, which is really low. 15% of a whole year, that's really low. So imagine if that 8 turned to, let's compound it, right? Let's really just think about how this works. Not even like go too far. If you do 8 times 8, right, that's 64, right? And if you think about 64 minus 52, that's 12. So let's say you had a total of 64 episodes in your first year, right? That means you technically had an extra 12 weeks. That means you were ahead by 3 months in your first year podcasting, that you went ahead of time to create content that was allowing you to stay consistent within the whole year cycle. Because 64 episodes is nothing. I have 550 episodes. So I'm looking back like 64. Yeah, I can do that in a week. I can do that in a month. I can do that in 3 months. If I want to just churn content and say, okay, 3 a day, 2 a day, 2 a week, you schedule it out and you just get it running. It's a schedule. So if you know that you're going to do it consistently, it takes consistency to build quality, right? And if somebody is retaining quality, it means that they're retaining in value. So that's another thing to think about. So you have to do your research. So take your time, and just trust God and trust the process, that if this is what you want to do, you're going to do it well. And the reason why most people stop doing podcasting is because they don't know what to talk about. They don't know what to say next. They don't know how to say next. And then if they say anything after, they don't even know if people are listening, because they don't even know if people are available to listen to their podcast. Yet, there are millions of people who listen to podcasts, including you. There are people who are online listening on the web daily. There are people who are driving. If you didn't know this, the top 3 places that people listen to podcasts is when they're getting ready, when they're active, whether in the gym or a park or anywhere else that they're actively doing something, or when they're driving. So if you know that someone's drive time is 19 minutes and you have a 30-minute episode, then it means that if this person is actually listening to you all day, they're going to spend half of their time going to work listening to you on their way to work, and half of their time on their way back to the house or back home listening to you, because they're able to split it in 2. So if you're able to do research and know who your audience is by location, which you will definitely know, because that's the beautiful thing about podcasting. When you start podcasting, you'll get to know how many countries, how many cities, how many states, how many districts, how many regions are listening to you. And by that data, you can use that data and take your time to understand what they're coming for, and then retarget back to them running ads. And there's a way to do it. So when you have data and you have information about people that you want to be with, then that's the best thing, because now you're actually hitting the target. You're not just spending $5 a day throughout the whole US. You're spending $5 a day in specific zip codes and area codes that you know that your business will flourish, because you have dominance in authority in your search and also in the demand of your product or service. So take your time with podcasting. It will last you a great fortune. Third lesson I learned is this. And this is for number 2. So if you hear that and you don't take your time, that's what you're going to be getting. So please take your time. Number 3, as you take your time, do your research. Talk to people. Ask people, would you listen to a podcast? Yes. What type of podcast would you listen to? I would listen to this. Okay, if I was to talk about this and this and this, what would you want to learn about this and this and this? By the time you hear that response from that person and you ask 10 more people, those are 10 episodes you have in the bag, because those are 10 people who are interested in what you have to say. 10 people out of 8.2 billion people, that's a lot of opportunities that you can actually have. So if for every one person that you talk to, or let me say it this way, for every 50 people you talk to, you have 2 people that say yes. Just imagine what happens when you compound that to the billions. So I'm just giving you a random number. You can put any number and calculate it. But the essence of what I'm saying is, when you create content for people, create content that people want to listen to. Do your research, go online, ask ChatGPT, hey, I want to start a podcast about this. What are the key topics that people want to answer? If you don't want to talk to people, that's fine. You can talk to AI. You can talk to your personal assistant, which is your artificial intelligence tool. So when you start thinking about that, when I said artificial intelligence, Stefan walks in the room. That's dope. Thank you for being here, Stefan. Good evening. Glad you're here. So I look at this whole thing and I'm like, yeah, do your research, take your time, learn as you're taking your time, understand what people want to talk about. There's something called visibility on podcasting, right? It's something I've learned, and I want you to learn this too. Visibility. Podcast is equal to visibility. You know how you hear positioning equals to sales? That's how visibility equals to SEO. And if you use SEO within your podcast, you're going to do so well, because you're going to consistently keep putting things into the Ethernet, into the internet, into the algorithm, into the system, that you have this thing called a last mod, because AI is picking up on last modification documentation. In other words, if you have an XML file and all your last mod is, last modified was August 24th, August 23rd, August 22nd, August 21st, then you're the last modified date that Google is going to tokenize. It's only called tokenization. So it's going to take an original copy and create a duplicate copy, and then put that duplicate copy on Google search. That's why when you have listings, Google picks up your listings and someone clicks on your link, it goes to your website, because you did SEO correctly. That's how you show up on the web. It's not hard. It's just that people don't see in between the lines, and that's why I want to really help you see in between that too. So Stefan says, that's wild. I just popped in another room and someone said exactly that. I don't know what you're doing, Stefan, tonight, but you got something going on, bro. A great thing going on. And I'm really happy that. What you hearing, Stefan?
Hey man, it's so great to see you. Yeah, I'm speaking at a conference out here in Napa, and I go on, in a couple of days, but I'm here early. And I just turned Clubhouse on. I jumped in the room and somebody said exactly that. I just stayed there for a second. I told them I was listening. Then I jumped in here and you said the exact same thing again. So thank you. I got a quick question to ask you. Is this at all possible that if I do a couple of articles on a new phrase or a new word, that I can sort of introduce it into the atmosphere and AI will pick it up as a thing if I get behind it?
Yes, that is possible. And one thing I noticed about the refresh cycle for AI now is that AI refreshes every 24 hours, because every 24 hours, billions of people are searching throughout the 24-hour cycle for information that are going to be prompted with results. So that is like context engineering that happens within a 24-hour cycle period. The same thing happens with Google, because with Google, Bing, and all these other traditional search engines, what happens with them is that it takes a longer time. That's why when people don't connect their website to Search Console, or submit their sitemap, or turn on their robots tags, or just make sure that they're indexing correctly, whether manually or automatically, they're not going to get that 24-hour scoop that AI is giving everybody else. So if AI is recommending you today, and let's say, for example, Stefan, you wrote an article today about a new word, in 24 hours, AI can pick that word up because it's on a website that is trusted, because Google trusted that website first. So that's the kicker. Because if you're getting AI to get results on the search engine is because Google has already trusted your domain as a resource of material that can actually cite information that it can pull from. So if you create a new piece of content today and then semantically connect it to what people are actually searching for in real time, then that's where that it creates that seamless bond between the two. And now when people start actually searching for that exact key phrase, you show up. For example, Clubhouse. When Clubhouse Plus started, I wrote an article on the internet about Clubhouse Plus. Till today, if you ask ChatGPT about Clubhouse Plus, my article shows up. And I didn't even know that was happening because I was not even trying to prompt it. I just did it naturally because I always do that. But then somebody came in the room on Clubhouse and she said, Dr. Fashion, shout out to her. She was like, hey, this was when Clubhouse Plus just first came out. She's like, hey, I asked ChatGPT about Clubhouse Plus and I saw your article. And I was like, yeah, I wrote it last night. And we had the room the next day. So that's literally a 24-hour example of what could happen if you do the same thing too with the brand mention.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's really helpful. And I was asking because with AI, there will be new knowledge, period. We're making it so smart that it's going to be kind of smarter than people, and new ideas are going to be introduced and new knowledge. So we don't even know how the human brain's going to respond to new knowledge because we don't have a complete understanding of it. Given that, I bet you have people in the audience right now who have written things and AI might suggest a word or a phrase. I would look up some of those things, and what I do is just jump over to Perplexity and I said, has this phrase ever been used before? Search this everywhere. I jump back to ChatGPT. I run over Google and I have it search everything. I mean, as long as it takes, because if you have something that is good and a phrase or uh, again, it might be a new two words together or something that is very, very valuable. Let AI know that you like those things, and it will make sure that when it's responding to things, it throws things out to you. And if you do get something and it means something to you, you should print something. Just get something out so that you're the first one to have it published. And it appears that if you do that on LinkedIn or Medium, they're trusted. And so it will become the first time it's ever been used anywhere in history. If that means something to you, I'm just saying it's something. That's it. I just wanted to ask you about it, but thanks so much.
Thank you, Stefan. That is so true. I was even mentioning this in the last room. And hey, Trisha, welcome. I saw a lot of people too. Anisha too. And Holly and Naba, Luis, Kunsens, Leo, Ziad. Glad you're here. Jay, Lydia, thanks for being here as well. Sean, appreciate you for your time. And thank you for being here as well. Haduya. Thank you all for being here. It's a global app, so I really want to appreciate you for being here. You mentioned something, Stefan, and I wanted to quickly piggyback on this too. You know, when you mentioned about citations, the top platform and Statista did a statistical study from the June 2025 report. And they said that Reddit is where AI picks up the most information from. And that was very revealing because
Wow.
because Reddit is a forum platform and people use gamer tags, they use pseudonyms, they don't use their real names within their name. Like here, everybody, we know each other's name, but there you could be XYZ123 and your name could be Bob, but we don't know because it's not going to show. So that privacy is big. So now when people are talking about it and you have Reddit and you put your link on Reddit with the link to your website, and then AI is looking for search information that's search based, then you have a search link that's found on the web. It puts your web link in the first place because you've been able to cite from a different source. So when you look at the whole semantic web, it's crazy.
And this, ladies and gentlemen, is why Favor is the best.
Thank you, Stefan. I appreciate I really do. I love to break things down because SEO is talked about like it's hard, and I'm like it's not hard, but I want to make sure that when you look at it visually, it can give you a better response. And I'm bringing back workshops because this is something I've been thinking about. I'm like, what do I want to do that will help you see this even better than I can tell you as you're listening? And it's a workshop. I'm going to start doing workshops in person, live workshops from next year. So I'm just letting you know now. I'm super excited about that one. Then virtual ones, I'm going to be doing a 4-day workshop in 2 weeks, starting 26th through the 29th. And I'll be talking more about that because I want to show you about these things. And if you have information, if you want to know more about it, click the link above and then hit workshops so that you can get the information about it, because I'll be sending out the email with the links for you to access and to get more information about it. Because I did a poll to our email community. We sent it out to about 10,000 people. And I asked, I said, hey, would you like more of? Do you want in-person / virtual workshops, or do you want audio / video courses? And I was very specific about my question because I want people to learn and I don't want to force them to learn. I want them to learn in a happy way. I want them to learn like, okay, I got it. Bye. Okay, I got it. What else do I need? People are curious about different things, and I want people to get it so they can go and do it. So the fastest way they said is workshops. I said, okay, let me come back and really sit down and see what I really want people to learn. And now I broke it down into 4. One day I'm going to do SEO and AI. The next day I'm going to do LinkedIn. The next day I'm going to do Pinterest. The next day I'm going to do podcast. So I'm going to really put it into a 4-day flow for 90 minutes each, which is 360 minutes, so that I can also celebrate 6 years podcasting as of today, and also help more people to understand how they can use what I've been talking about all along visually, because people have been listening. They're listening. And sometimes people get fatigued. People get listening fatigue. I've had Zoom fatigue before, so I know what it feels like when you keep doing it. Welcome, Cabs. So I said, okay, let's turn it from audio to visual. And that's why I want to do it in form of workshop. And I know, Stefan, we've had a workshop too. And thank you for allowing me to be on your workshop as well, because that's how I'm able to really show more than I can tell.
Yeah. Anytime I can make a place for you, I'll do it. We have a kind of built-in crowd who's always there. So I just love what you're doing. Anyway, it's nice to be here. Thanks.
Thank you, Stefan. Appreciate you. And yes, Lydia says, I really like Reddit. Wow. Yeah, Reddit is definitely a big one. And you're welcome, Cabs. It's big. It's definitely something to think about. And we have so much to do, but I think with the little efforts we make, little drops in the ocean make a big tidal wave. So it's just up to how you want to create it. Hey, Trisha. Good evening. How are you? I do late night rooms these days. So how are you?
Doing good, doing good. And I just love this 6 years of podcasting today. Favor the things you must have learned about yourself over 6 years. It's just incredible. I can't imagine. And this is all about you tonight. So I love, love, love this. And I'm glad you're doing evening rooms. I think you're connecting with a whole different group of people. So it's all about you tonight, Favor. 6 years, and it's all about you. So let's hear what you've learned about yourself, Favor. I love this.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's something that I've been, looking back, thinking back, and I even started this conversation today, like just expressing how things have moved from just being normal to being like, what is going on now? And I've learned so much, especially the last 2 I'll tell you tonight, because there's 6 of them. It's just beautiful to see that if you can do the same thing too, you can go so far. And the third thing I talked about is, take your time. Take your time. Just focus on just doing your research, making sure you're able to do things well. The first one I mentioned earlier was, don't say no to yourself, right? Because I could have said no to myself the first time I got my RSS feed, switched out because of, having music and everything copyrights. But I said, no, I'm going to do it again. And I did it again, started my We Don't Play podcast, and literally turned my business mantra into a living thing and turned on the mantra of the business as a podcast and merchandise. And that's what I did with We Don't Play, because We Don't Play is the name of the podcast. And I said, all right, that's what the business is all about. We don't play with business clients. We don't play with their time. We don't play with their money. We don't play. And we make sure every time they show up online, they show up as a dominant, authoritative, credible, resourceful business that they can actually be connected to through the servers. And each and every one of them has done amazingly well through the podcast and also through the business. So I said, okay, I'm going to do this. And it happened. Second thing I said to myself, what I've learned is, of course, take your time. And the third thing is do research, because when you do research and talk to people, you get to know more things. The fourth thing that I learned in podcasting, and this was around my 4th year podcasting, I realized that there are more people that want their voices heard than people who are actually being listened to. And this thing was mind-blowing to me, because a lot of businesses, a lot of people, a lot of owners, a lot of leaders want to talk about themselves or their stories, but they don't have a platform to express themselves. So where do they go? They go to radio, they go to magazines, they go to print, they go to TV, they go to all these places, and now they go to podcasts. So it's like, okay, something is cooking. How are we going to connect this podcast to people and actually really connect the dots? So it's really, really impressive to see how that takes off as well. Lydia says something. Let's see. You sound very, very knowledgeable. I will definitely be checking you out. I feel like I'm becoming stagnant on my business ideas. Yeah, I love to brainstorm with my clients, and I followed you because I definitely spark. I don't know, when we have sessions, whatever happens in that call, thank God we record every call, because sometimes I may not say something twice, and then they get it, they write it down, boom, it happens. Like today, so much wins. That's why I've been busy all day, and I'm doing a room tonight because I've had meetings since 5 a.m. this morning. So I'm just glad I've been able to spend some time with you today. So yeah, let's have a conversation for sure. And Anisha, thank you. I appreciate you for saying congratulations. And it's not easy, but it's worth it. And it's lovely because, this fourth thing that I mentioned, it's so deep, because you realize that the more people you meet, the more humble you get. Like, I'm going to be in Vegas in front of people who are making 7 figures, 8 figures, 9 figures. This is going to be a crazy, amazing time. And I'm just looking, I'm just listening, I'm just absorbing. I think that's the right word, absorbing, because I'm soaking in what I'm seeing, and I'm like, okay, I'm watching, I'm seeing the things, I'm looking, I'm listening, I'm learning, because the more I know, the more I don't know. So I feel like the more I'm learning, the more I have to learn. Because there's always going to be competition. There's always going to be collaboration. There's always going to be something new. ChatGPT 5 is here. Some people like it. Some people don't like it. Some people, I've listened to podcasts. I've seen stories. I'm like, okay, everyone's saying something. And people are giving different things. And I'm like, okay, I'm just sticking to my lane and seeing how this goes. Because you start realizing, okay, how do you build? Today, LinkedIn, I just crossed over 15,000 connections today. I've not even gone to LinkedIn to talk about it because I've been busy helping people. We have clients all over. So it's beautiful to see these things happening. And at the same time, I'm like, I got to come and show how podcasting has really changed my world. Because when I started realizing more people need to be heard, that's when I started actually inviting guests to my show. Because when I started podcasting, it was solo, right? I didn't plan to bring guests to the show. By the way, it wasn't a guest show. I said we don't play, and I was trying to say, okay, adding people, and I was talking about we in form of third party. I'll say third person because I'll talk about different people. I would highlight them, but I'll not talk about myself. I'll be talking about other people. So like we don't play. So I was highlighting the people that we were discussing. So it was that kind of thought I had in the beginning, and I was like, I need to talk to people. Like, I mean, we can't have a podcast and it's one way. People are listening, so people need to hear other people talk. So that's when I decided to switch it up, and I started saying, okay, I'm going to start inviting guests. I started asking people, hey, do you want to be a guest on my show? Some people will say yes. Some people will say no. Some people will say, how dare you? Like, you hear all kinds of things, but you have to keep going. You don't get stopped. Like, I think this is something I've learned in business. 12 years in business now. This is something I've learned in business full time, that the more no's you get, the more the yeses are going to be refined. Because the more you get to know, the more you know what you didn't know about what you should know, if that makes sense. So what I didn't know about podcasting is that I needed people to also highlight themselves on the show, which I wanted, but I didn't know how to do it because I didn't have the platform or the structure to create that in the podcast. I can't just bring it to the show and just talk to you. There has to be some type of flow. So I said, okay, I'm going to do it differently. And what I did was I started talking to people, and before you know it, people started coming on. Then guess what happened? Clubhouse came through because I started my podcast August 12th, 2019. By November 24th, 2020, I joined Clubhouse. Welcome, Kim, Frederick, and Black. Thanks for being here again. When I saw that, I said, okay, this is different. How am I going to connect with people and have this type of episodes and have conversations on Clubhouse, but also within the podcast? So I joined Clubhouse, just chilled. I didn't have a house. And I remember back then in the day on Clubhouse, when you started Clubhouse, you needed to actually do rooms like this they made it like a gamification setup where you have to actually you have to use your time to earn points virtually so that you can gain access to features that the app offers based on activity. So I had to run rooms on a weekly basis to make sure I could turn it on and turn it into a room or a house. Back then they called it clubs. Yeah, clubs. Yeah, now it's called houses. So clubs. So, and that's why we're in the marketing club because back then it was called clubs. So it just makes sense. Like you just go back in time. So I started running topics about Pinterest, about podcasts, about SEO, marketing, email, AI. This is fast forward to 2023, but from 2020, I was, just focusing on podcasts, just saying, okay, let me just talk about what I'm doing because I'm podcasting and I'm running a business. But at the same time, I want to make sure that I'm creating the flow and actually letting more people know about, okay, this is what I'm going to do between this time to that time. And then say that between this time and that time, this is how I can create, connections. So I started bringing people on the show, coming to Clubhouse saying, hey, do you want to be on the show? And that back then we had text, before everything changed. So I would send the link and, we'd be on the show, we'd talk, come back here. And back then there was no replays on Clubhouse. So how am I going to move somebody from here to the pod? It was a whole thing. I had to think outside the box. There was a club deck, crazy times. But I said, yeah, I'm going to keep doing this. And then I started finding people online too. Because in the beginning, what I realized about podcasting is that I was looking for people to be on my show. Now, I can't tell you how many guest requests I have in my email to be on my show. Like every day I keep getting requests. It gets to the point where I just look at them like, okay, let's see what happens today. And then it happens. Request to be on the show. And then I connect with people on LinkedIn. And then before you know, they find out they're on the website. It's crazy because of a podcast. So I realized when you start connecting with people and intentionally asking them to come to your show, it's for a reason. And why I started my podcast and called it We Don't Play is because I wanted to incorporate it from just being me talking about other people to other people talking about themselves. And people could listen to them while we listen in. And that changed everything for me. And I started bringing people in from LinkedIn as well. I started asking people to be on the show on LinkedIn. I even started doing LinkedIn Live. Back then I would be on Facebook groups. I would be just helping people with examples. I'll be doing these things. I'll be putting in time. I'm like, man, I don't even know why I'm doing this, but I'm like, something has to give. And I kept doing it. So I was doing it to just make sure that I'm also refining myself. I'm also practicing because one day I'm going to be on a stage and what will I say if I didn't plan for it? Right. And, you have to make sure that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, and you don't want to appear at the wrong time. You want to appear at the ripe time. So I kept on going and kept on going. I said, yeah, I'm going to keep doing this. And I started bringing people into the show, and that's how it took off. And then I started hearing people coming to me saying, hey, we like your show. We want to be on the show. So it switched from me reaching out to people reaching out to me. And I don't know when that switched, but that switch happened so seamlessly that it was not just about looking out for people, it's people looking out for themselves and actually finding information that they could be part of and communities they could be in. That's when things changed. So I knew, okay, fourth year, let me start getting this in. And of course, there were episodes I had in my second and my third year, but they were not as strong. They were not as intentional. They were just like guesswork. It was like, okay, let's see if this is going to work. Okay, I'll just bring anybody to the show where you can just talk about anything. It was literally that random, but I wasn't doing random shows. I was actually talking about important things, but it didn't have a structure. It just had conversation. It just had quality, where it didn't have structure. So I said, okay, I need to do something about this. And then I said, okay, what do I really want to talk about? That's when I said, most people want to talk about marketing. They want to learn how to get better. And I'm already doing that as a business. So why not bring my conversations that I have privately to show you examples publicly that you can actually learn from what I've done? So that's how the podcast took off, and that's how things happened. Now, the next thing that started happening, and the fifth thing that I got to learn, which became important to me. Thank you for being here, Watts and Jermaine. Thanks for being here. The fifth thing I learned about podcasting is that you have to, and this is the biggest one out of, I would say, like runners up to the last one I'm going to give. Hey, Jermaine, thanks for being here. It's been a while. Your analytics is going to be your best friend. I mean, this is across the board online, but with podcasting, your analytics is going to be your best friend, because that's how you're going to know who's listening, where they're listening from, how they're listening, when they're listening, why they're listening. And just to let you know this too, and this is, I'm going to dive deep into this section because this is where a lot of people miss it. And this is why I want you not to miss it ever, because I've learned this lesson myself and I had to take a big, bold step. And I'll show you exactly what I mean in a few seconds. When I started my podcast, because I wanted to use a platform to connect with people. And these people I wanted to connect with were people who are in business, people who have marketing, people, because I'm a founder. I want to connect with other founders. I want to connect with other business owners. I want to connect with other leaders. So I want to know what are other leaders talking about so that we can equip each other. Like iron sharpens iron. Tell me something I don't know. I tell you something you don't know. We can help each other grow. And there, we both have something to talk about. So it becomes something that is a better outcome as opposed to just a one-time outcome. So I decided to start getting into my analytics. So I use Spotify for creators. That's how I started my podcast. And please, if you start a podcast today for the first time, please start for free. Don't pay any platform to be on a platform to monetize if you haven't started for free. This is something I'm saying today, and I'll keep saying it forever, because I don't want you to spend more money than you earn. Because if you do that, it's going to take a while before you get back on your feet. And I don't want you to start from negative, right? Because most people buy microphones, they buy speakers, they buy a lot of things. And I'm like, wow, okay, that's important, but who's watching? Who's listening? Do you have a product? Do you have a community? Are they connected? Those are the questions that you need to answer before you decide to spend money on that. Because my first episode was a replay of Instagram, of a live Instagram. So that's how there are no excuses. Now there's Riverside FM. You can go online. There's so many places you can go to. So you can literally just have a great time online and record with quality. So I started from just when things were just there. And then Anchor at the time had their own recording app. So you could even record from your phone. Or you can do it now, but they'd released that because of the Riverside partnership that they did. So if you're starting now, check your analytics. If you start for free, go to Buzzsprout, go to Libsyn, go to Podbean, go to Spotify for creators. That's where I started. And then stay there and build your analytics, build your connections, build your people. And the best way to build a podcast, if I'm being very honest with you, and if you're taking this seriously, please do. And if you're not, please try. the distribution of your podcast is going to be the most detrimental or the most impactful thing, because your RSS feed is technically your how do I call this, your identification unique code, because your RSS feed is in form of a specific alphanumerical character bracket or character limit. So if your podcast is 12397 slash RSS slash something, it's going to do something like that based on your RSS feed, or RSS dot this slash that. That's going to be it's like your domain, right? And think about that like your USB. Welcome, WealthWave. You remember like how back in the day you have like a USB that has like 1 terabyte or 500 gigs or 5 gigs or 500 megabytes? That capacity is your audio files in today's world. So imagine if your RSS feed has multiple of episodes. So every time you have a new episode, you're just feeding into the server. You're feeding into the server. The more your episodes, the more database you get. The more database you get, the more you spread, because each episode has its own individual link. So distribution is the best way you can actually do this, because when you have a distributed podcast, this is what happens. If I have an RSS feed, then my RSS feed is going to be on Apple, that's 1 count. It's on Spotify, that's 2 counts. It's on iHeartRadio, that's 3 counts. It's on Amazon, that's 4 counts. It's on Pandora, it's on 5 counts. The more you keep counting, that's because you're on more stations, you're on more platforms. And there are about 37 plus, about at least 40 podcast stations, 40 that are on the internet today that you could be on. And within a month, you're distributing like Walmart, you're distributing like Trader Joe's, you're distributing like a chain, a franchise, because you're distributing intellectual property on third-party platforms with your first-party data. That's literally what you're doing technically if we go through the business route. So if you're creating content and you're putting that MP3 that you upload in form of a server, that's going to be a download in form of a download on Apple or Spotify, then you've uploaded an MP3 that someone's going to download on their iPhone or on Podcast Addict or on Castbox or on any other platform that they're listening to, because that's where they listen from. So when you think about demand, supply, producer, consumer, yin yang, it's podcasting. Because your analytics will tell you, oh, people in Hawaii are listening to you. People in Russia listening to you. People in Vietnam are listening to you. People in Brazil are listening to you. People in Honduras are listening to you. Like you start actually realizing, whoa, okay, this country, Panama, oh, okay, Sri Lanka, oh, Singapore, oh, Dubai, oh, wow. You'd be like, okay, something is happening here. And then you start realizing that they're actually staying. And you're like, okay, something is really going on here. Why are they staying? Then you keep talking and then they keep staying and then they keep responding back to you through email. That's what starts to happen with podcasting. So your analytics is your best friend with podcasting, because that's how you're going to know. You know how they say Google is your best friend and now they say ChatGPT is your best friend? Analytics is your best friend, because when you know the analytics to your show and you know how people are listening to you and what people are listening for or listening to, then you know what type of podcast to produce for your consumers. It's going to be a very easy exchange, because you're able to see, oh, people live in this street or live in this city or this state because they love this. Or we talk about hot dogs. Okay, people love hot dogs in Texas. Okay, people love Buc-ee's. Okay, you start realizing, oh, wow, we think alike, or we act, oh, okay, cool, we can have coffee, we can have tea, we can have a drink. That's because you're building that relationship with people. And it's not just about business and SEO. That's great. But if that SEO is not even having a conversation with the person that's reading it, then what's the point of doing SEO? Because SEO is supposed to make the information relevant and resourceful. That's the whole point. And sometimes we miss the point because we're misaligning the information with a different message. So analytics is going to get you far because you start off with keyword research. That's why I said, out of the lessons that I've learned, research is important, because when you don't research, you misfire. And then you misinform, and then it's just a mess, actually, because you just don't know what to do with the information you have. And that's why people stop podcasting after 8 weeks. That's 2 months. And people start because they don't know if it's working or not. And then they don't even have the capacity or even the ability to know. Not because they don't care. It's just because that's another thing for them to do that they don't have time for. So it's like, how do we even get out of this vicious cycle? That's why I'm creating a workshop. That's why I'm talking on Clubhouse. That's why I'm showing up on the podcast. That's why I want to help more people get more information. So it really gets them to that point where they think about it. Now, Trisha, if I ask you this, just a quick question, and anyone in the room can also answer this too. If you were to look for something today that interests you, how would you look for it, and what would make you want to value the information you found?
Sorry, Favor, I was hitting the wrong mic. If I were to look for something that interests me and took in the value of what I found, I would try to look for something that solved somebody else's problem. And I would search it probably on Answer the Public, or I would maybe go on to Reddit. I would maybe go on to Pinterest, something like that, and see what people are searching, see what people are looking for. And what would make me value it is obviously if there was a significant amount of people that were all asking the same question, and I could, or I knew the answer or how to get the answer. So that's probably what I would answer those questions with.
Thank you, Trisha. Yeah, I love that. And you see, that was resourceful because you were able to use the information you found and then applied it to what you were looking to do, or at least tasking to complete. So it's really interesting to see that when you take that time to build that intention, then somebody actually enjoys getting the feedback just because of the way you're able to respond and also learn how that person is leaning into the conversation that you're, I would say, giving them, because now they are receiving it because of what you're saying and or doing, and they're watching it because they want to learn how it's being done at the same time, especially if it's the first time they're trying something new. So it definitely changes a lot of things. And when you now know what people are looking for, and then you found the clue or you found something that allows them to know more, you're like, okay, this is actually something very interesting. Now I can actually use this information to learn more about what I'm finding interesting, and then I can use that information to apply it to my next thing. Thank you, Charles. So it's like you're creating more intentionality. Thank you, Trisha. And you're building the responsibility of letting more people know that what you found is resourceful enough to you that you shared it for them to know about. And sharing is caring, because if I didn't share it as a link, if I didn't share it as a show, if I didn't share it as a book, if I didn't share it as a podcast, then how will you know? How will you see it? How will you find out? How will you even discover it? Because it's not available to you. So when these links are accessible and acceptable by the web, then it's easy for you to just scale because you're now giving information. There's a lot of things I want to share, but I can't put it everywhere. I can, but I can start somewhere and then take that somewhere else. But it starts off with, where do you want to start from? And that's why I start from a podcast, because I know from there, anything else I do is going to find its way there at some point, at some time. And that's a really great way to connect it. Yes,
Yeah,
Trisha.
I was just going to chime in and say, Favor, I remember a day when I met you where I didn't understand a word you were talking about, where I didn't understand a thing you were talking about, but you started with one thing and I kept listening. And over time, now I feel like I understand what you're saying. There may be some things that, are over my head, but a lot of the things that you talk about now I get because I've listened consistently and you've consistently taught. And I just wanted to say that. I wanted to share that. A lot of the things that I talked about and how I answered the question were because I consistently listened to what you're teaching. So thank you for sharing that.
That means a lot to me. Thank you, Trisha. I appreciate that. It's very helpful, because that's the information that you can't pay for, you can't even find, because it's priceless. It's so sentimental. because those are things that you don't take for granted, and you want to make sure that you're showing up the right way so that people don't get you the wrong way or find the wrong thing in what you're trying to say. So it's like, how do you do it? How do you do it well? And I keep learning. That's why I keep listening. Silent and listen are just scrambled. Same difference actually, because it's the same letters, same number of words or number of letters in the word. So it's something that I've really taken time to do. And even when we feature podcast guests, and the way I just listen, I don't say a word until they say their last word, because the next word I say is going to impact the next thing that they respond to. So the conversation becomes so seamless. And when they're done listening or talking, it's different. For example, we had a podcast episode about, I don't know if you've heard of this company. They're called ClearSwipe. Amazing, amazing people. And I got to meet them. I think it was through LinkedIn. And then from meeting them on LinkedIn, I said, okay, I would love to, learn more about how this works, because what they do is something called dual pricing. And that's when I got to learn on how to avoid high merchant processing fees when you are a business. And he literally saved, not really saved. Let me say it this way before I say what he saved on. And he talks about it on the show. I'm going to put the link in the chat for you to listen to the episode. I just put the link in the chat. He talked about this, and he said that, I think it was a year, either last year or the year before, he paid about $250,000 in processing fees. And he was like, something has to change, right? And we went deep into the topic about how companies are paying for platforms and in merchant fees are high. It's a whole deep conversation, and we went into the business of it. And they're called Go ClearSwipe or ClearSwipe. You go to goclearswipe.com, and you can talk to them and really understand how it works best for you, because they integrate with QuickBooks as well. Like, it's a really cool process. And what I got to learn about, why I'm even bringing this up, is because when I was done talking to him, this is his first time, doing a podcast show. And I was so happy to hear that he felt very comfortable and he felt like this was actually a very exciting show. And especially if it's your first time, you don't want to mess up, because that's going to make someone not show up for the next thing. Or if, hey, come to my show now, the first one was bad, I'm not going to do this. You're literally setting the tone for somebody's experience. And that's one thing I never want to mess around with at all. And I was like, I hope this was good. And he was like, yeah, this was cool. And you can listen to the podcast episode, and he nailed it. He gave everything, and it was beautiful. Even like when you go to the gym, all these things that we're paying for, when we go to the mall, he talked about everything. So when you're swiping your cards and payments, it's a whole conversation that really made me think outside the box. So we have topics like this that I bring experts, and they talk, they experience, they tell their story, and people listen. So when I listen to what they are saying, I learn more from the people I listen to than the ones I talk to. So it's like, it's a bigger gain, because I give more and I still gain more because I'm within that giving cycle. So when I give my time on podcasts, on shows, on features, it's because I know that someday someone's going to listen to this, and they're listening because they need help. We're so grateful to be here in the US and learn all this information. There are people outside that don't even know what ChatGPT 5 is. That's a fact. So when we think about the things that we have, and we are learning and we're growing, and people are learning and they're knowing, it's a beautiful thing, because you listen, you live, you learn, and you earn. That's how you show up on the podcast show. Because once you're earning, it's because you deserved it. When you earn impressions, it's because you organically showed up. When you earn an award, it's because you showed up organically, you showed up consistently. It's that Nobel Prize, it's that Lifetime Achievement Award. It's that thing that you see that, okay, that happened, and we all acknowledge it because we saw it coming, because it happened, because it was done. You can't doubt that. It's real life. So when I look at that same thing and I'm like, okay, how can I impact the same people the same way? It's by giving this kind of information, because someone's listening to this in a different country. And out of the 151 countries listening, they could be learning something new. And I'm happy they're learning, because they are using it for their business, for their time. They're getting more resourceful. and they're helping. Speaking of resources, let me give you guys a resource that you guys will actually enjoy, because it's technically the birthday of the podcast, right? So I'm gonna give you all a good resource. Let's do this. Go to this website. This is for anyone that, and we're going to talk about this deep when we get into the workshop. So if you want to be in the workshop, please click the link above and then hit on workshop so that you don't miss out on the email when it's time to sign up, because we're going to have this in 2 weeks. There's a website that I want you to check out, and I'm going to put the link in the chat for you to check out. And if you do this before the time we meet, or just do this and you get back to me, I'll be happy you did it, because I want to give something that you can learn from. And that's why I love giving information. This is a barrier-free information zone. So here we go. I'll put the link in the chat. Go to llmrefs.com. If you've never heard of that site, put a 1 in the chat. If you've heard of that site, put a 2 in the chat. I just want to know if we have, because I want us to use this correctly, so that we don't just get another shiny object and think it's like, I want us to use this correctly. So we got a 1, 1, 1. Okay, so all right. So let me tell you about this platform. Thank you for your honesty. This platform is trusted by SEOs, founders, and industry leaders. That's on Product Hunt. You'll even see it on their website. Instabug, DataCamp, which is big. Gusto, which is big. Framer, which is big. eBay, which is big, right? Twilio. These are big platforms. These are big companies, right, that have trusted this platform. And what is this platform going to give you? Even V2 and Get Inbox. What's going to happen is that you can increase your brand visibility using keywords that are being found within the AI search engines, and you can track your keywords and your branding based on the mentions. So what happens with this platform is that you can say, hey, I'm looking for this keyword. Okay, I'm looking for the words, I would say, give me a word. I don't want to talk about it only. Give me a word. Trisha, anyone in the chat, give me like 2 words you'd want to search for AI based on keywords. And then notary. Okay. So notary. So if you go in there and you type in notary, right? Just type in the word notary. And then what you're going to see is, of course, you have to sign up. If you have an account, you can log in. So I'm going to log into my account. So when you create this keyword, right, what you're going to do with this keyword, you're going to notice that you're going to start seeing results, right? And these results that you're going to start seeing are results that are going to take your business to the next level, because now you're going to start noticing that, oh, the word notary has different results, or the word notary has different, feedback loops. And then you're able to know that, okay, if people are searching for this keyword, then this keyword is what people are really in need of, which would now require me to create something out of what I've seen in form of a content layer, which would now be a website blog. Let me put it like that. Because when you have a blog or a podcast, you're going to answer questions that people are frequently asking, and that's going to allow your content to actually start showing up on the web. And that's when you start realizing that you get more insights, you start getting more responses, people start finding you more. And then it's because of the mentions. So remember I mentioned earlier that when you look at SEO is more like people will search, they'll find, and they'll read, right? LLM or AEO, which is large language models and answer engine optimization, is more like they will look for you because they're searching for something important, but they're not looking for you, the brand, they're looking for you, the result. So if they find the result within the algorithm, whether it's ChatGPT or AI or anything of that nature, then what's going to happen is that you're going to start realizing that you're going to be the person they're going to be looking for as the respondent. So that's where your business starts to come into play, and you're like, okay, now I'm showing up for this. Or if I'm not showing up for this, how can I show up for this in the midst of these other things? So I'm going to put the word notary right now. I'm actually logged in and I want to click on the word notary. And then, okay, so let's see. Here we go. So I'm searching for the word notary right now. We're doing something very practical and notary online. I like that, Trisha. So I'm going to see how this is. And I like that it's going to be a phrase that I'm going to get a response to. It's searching right now. So it's doing some searches. Boom. All right, we got some results. All right, here we go. All right, so you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do something very interesting. I'm going to take a screenshot because I know some of you may not be able to see this. So what I'm going to do, thank God for Clubhouse multiple photos. I'm going to, yes, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a screenshot of the results because how many results? There are 27. So I'm only going to be able to take 17 because that's how long my screen can take the, yeah, it's an iPhone 16 Pro Max. So I think that's the only, yeah, it can only take up to 17. It's actually 18, which is fine. So that's cool. So I'm going to change my profile picture. I'm going to upload it. I'm literally doing this for real. So we can look at this together. Add from camera roll. And then I'm going to, okay, found it. Okay, so now Clubhouse truncates it. So now I can't even put 17 because I have a square box to fill in. So let me just pick the top 10. All right, boom. This is fine. So I've clicked done. All right, so look at, if you refresh, if you PTR pull to refresh, you're going to see, and let me know if you guys can see it. If you can see, put a 1 in the chat because I don't want to continue before you don't see. Just if you click on my face, okay, Paris 1, thank you. All right. Thank you for that. And welcome to the room. Notary Giant 1. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to run through this list down now. So the first thing you see there is the National Notary Association. I believe that's what it is. Yeah. Now, the SOV that you see there stands for share of voice. What is share of voice? Share of voice means the number of times your brand was mentioned in the voice of the question that was asked in the form of a prompt. So what does that mean? The more questions you answer, the more prompts you show up for, meaning the more mentions you have, the more links you can give. And you're giving from the same place, which is your domain. So when you look at that number 1, you can see it's at 93%. That's the share of voice. So that's your competition. That's your direct competition. So if I was to, let's say, audit your website or build your website or try to make sure that your website is matching that 93% share of voice, or at least taking a percentage, even if it's 5% within your local region, then that's an achievement because you have 5% more than you didn't have in the previous quarter. So now you have a new bottom line that you can achieve based on a forecast of some keywords and some data you can be able to pull off intelligence. So when you look at that 93%, it's showing up at position 3. But guess what? Guess what, the Notary Giant? It's actually very interesting to see this, that the 93% you see there, the person, they're at position 1.3, right? And the reason why they're showing at the top is because, and it makes sense, the reason why they're showing up there first place is because they show up the same way on Google. That's literally it. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, nationalnotary.org, right? And they have something called a knowledge center. So they created a knowledge center, and that's what they're ranking for, because in that knowledge center, they talked about notary. Probably what is a notary, more in form of like a blog or in form of a documentation page. In fact, I'm actually going to click on it right now to see. Yeah, there it is. I'm going to put the link in the chat. I love being really practical with these examples because we're on an app that you can't really see, but you can hear. But I also think it's also good to see things when you click on it. So I just clicked on, yeah, put the link in the chat. That's what I just showed you. So when you see this, that's coming from LLM refs. So you're able to now look at that and say, okay, I want to rank for this keyword. And guess what? I'm actually going to go back to the brands. All right, I'm back to the brands page. Now, as I'm speaking to you, this thing is crazy. Like, this thing is super wild. I feel like AI is changing. I feel like AI is changing like right before our eyes, because things are happening super fast. So now I'm going to say something real quick. If you notice, what you see on the screenshot that I gave you is what is 93%. I believe it's 93%. Yeah, it was 93%. I just refreshed the page and it's dropped to 79%. And why it's dropped to 79% is because when I had it before I refreshed it, they had 5 sources. Now they have 8 sources. You see where I'm going with this? So your competition is literally working hard at night to make sure in the morning that they're seeing first thing in the morning when people are searching. This is happening in front of us right now, giving you like real-time information. So the SOV is 79%, but guess what? They have 8 sources. So these 8 sources means that they have 8 links on their website that's putting them at the top of the search. Second place is the UPS store. And you see on this screenshot here, number 2 is what, let me see, it's California Secretary. Yeah. And number 3 is UPS store. UPS store is 23%. California Secretary is 37% on the screen. On my screen, UPS store is number 2 at 25%. Rotary is 21%. And then California Secretary is 17%. So guess what just happened? Rotary, I don't know who that is. Let me actually click on that brand and see. This is happening right before us right now. And yeah, there we go. I can see their link. How to become interesting. I just noticed something. Huh.
Favour, did you just
Yes.
do notary or did you do notary online?
I did Notary just to get the wide scope,
Okay.
because I wanted to see which companies would have that tagged to their own brand. And that's why we could see like Bank of America is there. I'm seeing US Notaries, Blue Notary. I'm seeing NNA. I'm seeing, national notaries, because I wanted to see the brand mentions that would capture that specific key term, and then see how you can also rank for the same key terms based on the keywords that you have on your website. And then go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Because I did notary online and I just wanted to see if there's, such a difference, but yeah, not such a difference. So there's some people that are on there for brands that are the same that you're mentioning, but not as high on the list. So yeah, that's neat.
Yeah, it's different. And every 24 hours it keeps changing. And even right now, I'm seeing the top 3 questions that are being asked is, where can I find a local notary? There are 36 brands and 57 sources that ChatGPT, Perplexity, Google AI, Anthropic Cloud, Grok, Meta AI, DeepSeek, and Google AI Mode, and OpenAI ChatGPT search and OpenAI ChatGPT are searching for. That's what I'm seeing right now. 36 brands, 57 sources. So imagine if you wrote 3 articles or had 3 podcast episodes, and you said, you know what, Favour? I'm going to do these 3 episodes. I'm going to do these 3 blogs, and I'm actually going to do these 3 topics and answer these 3 top questions, and then see what happens in 3 weeks or less, because this is a 24-hour cycle that's keeping. You guys have just seen right before your eyes, brands change positions. You know how people change positions on Google, position 1, 2, 3. This is the new ranking. So when you now see like this, it's a completely different thing. The second one is, how do I become a notary? So if somebody has maybe notary workshops or refers someone to a notary business that, they're able to do that or learn, or places that they can actually get certified or licensed, you can be that resource, because that's how someone can learn from you. And then you can hire them, or you can connect with them, or partner with them, or refer them. It's a win-win either way. And then the third one is, what are the requirements to be a notary? So these are the things that people are asking ChatGPT, AI, and right now I'm looking at the results. Yelp is number 7, yet on Google, Yelp is number 1. So you see where we're going with this? Things are changing. It's getting decentralized. So if you really want to show up online for the things that you want to rank for, a podcast is going to help you get there, because the more distribution channels that I mentioned you could be on, 100%, 100%. You'll definitely be on those stations. And that's how all those links will be picked up by Apple, by Siri, by ChatGPT, by Google, by YouTube, because you put one link and you've transferred it to about 10 different destination links. So when you compound that interest over time, the more episodes you get, the more time you get back, because the more people you serve, the more people listen, and the more downloads you have. And that's why I really say analytics is a big one. That's why I wanted to dive deep. So the notary, let me know in the chat if that helped you, if you're able to see exactly how this works, because this is kind of like an inside the scoop. This is kind of like a mock-up version of what I would be doing in the workshop when I'm actually showing you live and sharing my screen and actually showing you what I'm explaining, moving my mouse. It's going to be very intentional, because if you're able to calculate and say, okay, I didn't have this, now I do. Okay, in 2 months, what will I have? I can be able to really make a difference, because it's just the math. Doing the math, if you're able to know, okay, I have 0, they have 9. If I do 9 or 10 in 2 weeks, then I'm going to show up for the next 2 years, because I'm showing up for these results. And guess what? There are 1.1 billion websites in the world. Why is it only a few of these websites that you're seeing here that are showing up on the AI search results? It's because AI is looking for the last modified, the last active, the last business, the last activity, the last modified. That's what I was talking about earlier. So when your website is modified, you have an article that is responding to these questions. What is a notary? What's the process? And then you put your city, your state, your zip code. Boom. That's it. Because you're literally going, it's like a library. You don't have a book. All right, I have the book. I'm gonna put this book in the inventory. I'm gonna put a barcode. I'm gonna put the ISBN number. I'm gonna make sure that it's part of the inventory set. And now I can reset it and know exactly how many copies we have per unit. And then that way you're able to scale and know how many people are reading it per book or per set. So by the time you're able to do that over time, it gets easier, because that book becomes a popular place. Now, if someone's coming to the library, because of that book, they drove all the way from home because of that book. That's the same way people go online to search for information, and then they find your book on the web because you're on a web page. It's the same thing. It's just we're in a digital world now. That's why I kind of like go back to analog and then I come back to digital, because it's the same thing. It's just a different way it's done. But I'm glad you said it really does, the Notary Giant, because it just changes everything that you can create for yourself. So analytics is big. One win that also happened today, just to tell you about analytics, is that my podcast, because I moved from Spotify to Amazon. So my podcast now is hosted by Art19. And I'm excited about that, because a lot of people don't know about it, but it's really something that is a blessing. And I'm happy that I'm able to share a lot of information with you and give you something that is valuable and resourceful, because I want to keep showing up and giving you consistency. That's why I love transparency too. So as you're listening, I'm happy that you're listening to this, because thank you for listening, because right now on the Amazon dashboard, I'm so excited that this is happening. I got 1,000 downloads today, and this has been happening since I joined the platform earlier this month. Now, if you think about this number, 1,000 downloads on the Spotify platform, it took me double that for the last 5 years, because on my dashboard, it would tell me I got 2,000 downloads over time, all time. And I'm like, what? 2,000 downloads? Sometimes we'll say 3,000. So it hit about 3,000 downloads or so. And I was like, this 2,000, 3,000 is very funny. How is it 2,000? So I realized that it's 10% of the actual value. So I said, oh, so if I had 2,000 downloads, that means I technically had 20,000 downloads. And I was like, oh, that hit me a little differently. I was like, okay, that makes sense, because if I'm looking at 20,000 downloads, but from a 2,000 downloads view, then if I hit 1,000 downloads now in literally 10 days on the platform, that means I have technically hit that 1,000 views or 1,000 downloads that I was reaching in 5 years with one platform on the other side with Spotify. So now when I think about the actual downloads, it's real, because the month is not over and it's just 10 days in. And this month is like 4.5 weeks. August is really long. So if by the time we get to August 31st, or let me just put a month from now, September 12th, I'll tell you what that number is. That number will not be 1,000. It will be somewhere around 4, 5, 6,000 plus. I don't know what that number will be because I lost all my analytics when I moved, because you couldn't import analytics from one platform to the other. That was my thing. And I was like, man, all these countries, all these cities and states, I'm going to lose out on everything is data. I felt so bad. I was like, you know what? It's okay. I'll start again and I'll start from scratch, but I also prove a point that if it's actually happening and it's not a gimmick, then the people will come. And now on the platform, it's already showing about 25 countries because it's still pulling data from resources. So imagine in 10 days, I've pulled 25 countries in. Not every country has listened to it because this is a seasonal podcast. Imagine I can't get 6 years worth of data in 10 days worth of activity. It's impossible. So by the time I do another 6 years and I match that 6 years to the last 6 years and say, okay, I had 6 years this, has 6 years that number is going to 10x, it's going to 100x, because now my podcast is in the top 25,000 out of 4.5 million podcast shows globally. So it's like, okay, there are different things that I've been able to see how it actually got to that point. And I look back and I'm like, okay, I can do this. I can do this. Now we have over 17 other podcast shows we've opened for other people. My mom has a podcast show. We've scheduled her podcast all the way through the end of the year. So she's releasing episodes weekly. So I look at it from, okay, how do we connect with people? How do we roll out schedules? How do we do things in the right way? How do we make sure that we are still consistent? And how do we show up for the people who are listening to us consistently? And that's with podcasting. So that's what I learned with analytics. And that's what has been really good for me. Now, the last thing I want to say, the last lesson I've learned about podcasting, this one is very deep. That's why I left this one for the last one. If you have a podcast, please think about your podcast as an intangible asset. That's one thing I've learned. And that's something that you could learn too. And I'll talk about it later on into the year. But I want to just start off by saying this and just planting a seed. When you start off, think about your intangible assets. Think about your connections with people, your intellectual property, how you actually connect with people, and how you even relate with them when it comes to conversations, right? Because you have to give good energy to get good energy back. You can't give what you don't have. So there has to be a yin yang. There has to be that reciprocity, right? So when I look at it from the perspective of finding that position to also protect your asset as a podcast, that's something that would be really big for you to do as a business. Because if you're podcasting, start off by, of course, if you have a business, you already have a copyright, you already have a registration, you have an incorporation, you have a LLC, you have an S Corp, C Corp, whatever you're creating as a business, you know what your business model is, right? Your mission, your vision, your core objectives, your values, you know your core ethics, you know exactly what you abide by, you know what you have. Is it for profit? Is it non-profit? You know all those things, your classifications, your next codes, you know how those things are going to work for your business to flourish, right? Whether it's a year zero or year 7, it's an IPO, an initial public offering. If you know exactly where your business is going to be within a certain time, then think of your business with your podcast in mind as an intangible asset. Because there are two things that if you didn't know, now you're going to know. You can trademark your podcast, and you can also turn your podcast into an NFT. So this is something I'm telling you now. Because when you start doing these things, thank you, Trisha, when you start doing these things, you start protecting your intellectual property. You start making sure that you have things done correctly. There are different classes for your trademark. You have to know exactly what it is. There's even a class for podcasting. If in case you didn't know, there's a class for that. So when you have your own podcast and you're able to trademark it and you're able to now work with investors, you're able to license your business, you're able to do things correctly and turn it into something good, great. that's something that you can actually do and turn it into something even better. And I said this before on my podcast. That's something that I want the We Don't Play podcast to be, is to be a shining light and a beacon of light to people, and want this to be a school too. I want this to be a school so that people can learn, because education is important, and this information we learn today can help us tomorrow. So just like Trisha said too, consistently listening will get you to understand it, and then you just become, it's just a natural thing, because that's how it should be. It becomes natural because you just enjoy understanding information that you apply consistently, and that's the beauty of learning every day. And I learned something new as well, so it's really beautiful to learn from people, because we all know something and we're all geniuses as well. So definitely, that's the sixth one that I wanted to make sure you have an intangible asset, and just do it well. And when you do it correctly, you do it so well that you'll be proud of yourself. You'll be happy you did, and you'll be able to do things consistently to show people that you can. Trisha, what are you thinking, and what would be your final takeaway from today's room?
Final takeaway from today's room, Favour, is thanks to you, I'm a little bit smarter today than I was yesterday. So thank you for this room. I appreciate you, and I appreciate everything that you always offer. Great value, always, my friend. Thank you.
You are welcome. Appreciate you for that, Trisha. Yes, I definitely am happy that we're able to do this at this capacity and help more people, and just make sure that it works well. So thank you for that feedback. If you're in the chat, if you're listening in, if you're able to type, please put a 1 in the chat too. If this helped you tonight, if this gave you at least a good starting point, or even at least knowing something better than you did before, that'll help me know, because we're here to learn and we're here to grow, and we're here to help each other create more experiences too, as a business, as a person, as a people. So yeah, let's connect. Let's definitely get the ball rolling, and let's get things started. So as you think about your business, as you think about your future, as you think about what you're doing, ask yourself, what am I going to do with this information, and how am I going to apply it to the next person that's going to listen to it? And that's what I've done. I've given you my 6 lessons tonight, and you're able to learn. What's up, Aphids? Gerald, thanks for being here. So you have to think about these things long term, and I've learned a long way. And of course, the cherry on the top is SEO, because if you're not able to do these things and do them correctly, then it will be hard for your podcast to even be seen, because SEO is something that if you don't do, all these other 6 lessons I learned would be invalid, because SEO is a cornerstone of everything that you do. People who say they don't need SEO because it's AI, run, because SEO, let me say it this way, SEO and AI is it's like milk and cereal. I want to be very literal with that example, because you want to make sure that they're connecting together. It makes sense, and it's allowing someone to feel like there's actually a blend of the two. And this is what I mean by that. Of course, you can drink milk by itself. You can eat cereal by itself. Some people eat cereals by itself, right? They just want to crack it. They just want to eat cornflakes or whatever they like, and they have it, right? Great. That's cool. But if you mix it together, it's going to be different, because SEO can be janky when you don't use it correctly, and AI can be janky if you don't use it correctly. So it's really how you use it and connect the two together that makes the sense out of the two. And that's how you're able to blend them together. And sometimes analogies can be really wild, but if you really think about the true intention of what they're made for, then you're able to see how they both connect and how they both serve the opportunity to get you to the purpose of what you're actually creating for people to find when they search for information that you provide. So I hope this helps you, and I hope this gives you insight. If you need AI, SEO, that's artificial intelligence, search engine optimization, digital marketing services, consultation, workshops, start here by going to playinc.online, playinc.online, or go to wedon'tplaypodcast.com. Get started, get connected, and get informed, because this is information that you may not have heard before. And if you learn this information today, it can really help you tomorrow. So start by taking the information now and grabbing it, because these are things that you're able to see as a business and will help you grow. So check it out. I just will tell you, if you start today and you start well, you can definitely go a long way. It's just up to you. I can give you this information, and that's why I do it a lot, because when I give information, not everyone takes it, not everyone applies it, not everyone does it. And that's why I keep doing it, because I know the ones who do it actually do it for real. And the ones who actually want it done will get connected and will also reach out too. So either way, it's a win-win for everybody. So thank you so much, Trisha, for being here. Anisha, appreciate you. Jermaine, Rena, Lewis, and Charles, God bless you all. Hope you have a wonderful evening. If you're listening to replay, if you're listening to this right now, I hope you enjoy yourself. It's 10:30 p.m. Central, and I wanted to make sure I did this to celebrate with y'all today. So have a wonderful night, and I'm see you guys tomorrow. And before I go, I wanted to let you know that I've been running 52 episodes of content within weekly cycle. So I've already done about 3 or 4 questions, and I was going to do the next one, but I said, because today is a podcast birthday, there's no way. I need to just take a little break and talk about some few things before I come back. So when I come back tomorrow, I'm going to be talking about, why does my website have 0 traffic? That's going to be the next room topic. So I always like to tell you what's coming next. So as you're thinking about what's coming next, you're able to plan ahead to ask the right questions, or the questions you need answered, so that you come prepared. So I hope you're listening, and I hope you're learning, and I hope you're learning with the intention of earning value and also earning impact too for the people you connect with. So thank you for listening. Have a beautiful night, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye for now. Now, that was an episode, right? Thank you so much for listening to the We Don't Play podcast show. I'm so glad that you're here and you are sticking tight with us, especially to the very end. Now, this is season 11, and we're going to do it differently. And I want to make sure that every episode you listen to has something to give back, so that you can also learn more after you listen. Now, We Don't Play podcast show is where you listen, you live, you learn, and you earn. So if you're in any of those positions out of those 4, please make sure that you reach out to me. Send out an email through info@playinc.online. That's info@playinc.online. Or you could go to playinc.online, which is a website, www.playinc.online, playinc.online, and schedule a call so that we can get you on an SEO discovery call to talk about your business and help you with your marketing needs. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope this helped you. See you in the next episode. God bless you. Jesus loves you.